How's it going, everyone? Welcome back into the channel. Today I want to go over the best hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! Post the newest core set, Doom of Dimensions. As always, I have 6 awesome tiers here. I have playable in most main decks, playable in some main decks, as well as most side decks and some side decks. We also have a niche and just don't. For those of you who aren't familiar, basically what we're looking at is going to be the playability of these cards and where they would go within the different tiers. And what's most important is going to be the name of the tiers themselves, not necessarily how high or how low they are, with the exception of like the very last one. For example, there are going to be cards that are critical side deck pieces. Like for example, in last format, Lancia was a most side deck card, and just because it was playable in most side decks doesn't mean it wasn't as powerful as a card like, I don't know, Ash Blossom was, for example. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. But before we do, of course, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are just returning from a pretty long hiatus, and I want to make sure that I get right back into the swing of things. I need your support as well. So first off, of course, we have very easily Ally of Justice Cycle Reader. It's a good card in the right situations when there's a very heavy light-based focus in the meta, but that's just not really the case right now, especially considering that Moon got banned. There's really no reason to be playing this card right now, as Fiendsmith piles aren't running around, and Blue Eyes itself as a deck really isn't that strong in general. So I think Just Don't is the perfect place for it. Then we have Artifact Lancia. This is going to be very niche here. You can put it in some side decks if you want. I personally think for my meta, it goes in the side deck because I do have some people that are playing Lunalight, Crystron, Orchist, and even Malice, of course. So for that reason, it could be going to some side decks. But in reality, it really depends on what your local scene is going to be like. So for that reason, for now, I would say Lancia goes in the niche tier. After that is going to be Ash Blossom, which goes right into playable in most main decks. It's such a good offensive and defensive card. It's so incredibly versatile as well. It's just a phenomenal option all around. It stops the Charmies, which is really important. It also allows you to play going first and going second, which is still really strong. It's just arguably the most flexible and best hand trap of the format, even though it may not be as impactful as it once was. Then we have Bestials. Bestials are very dependent because there are some decks like Dragon Link or Dragon-based strategies that really want to play a card like Bestial Magnamut that are going to be seeing playing it all the time. There are other decks that are just playing Bestials as like a DD Crow-esque sort of card. And considering that one of the best decks of the format is going to be Yummy, another best deck is going to be Mitsurugi, it makes sense to have Bestials here. And for that reason, I think it'll be honestly depending on your deck. And if your deck can play them, you definitely will put them into the some main decks tier. It's not every deck that's going to be playing them, but the ones that can really do love it. I have a hard time seeing that it's going to be anything other than some main decks or in some side decks, but for now, I'll put it into the some main decks tier. I do think right now Magnamut is still the best one because it's the Searcher, it's still really powerful. Druzorm is also going to be always good because it can essentially act as 1 for 2 when it comes to removal, and then Baldrake, similar kind of situation, especially when you pair it with something like a Druzorm as well. Then we have Chaos Hunter. This one here I would put into the Just Don't category, not into the niche tier, because when we were seeing the peak of Malice format, we were side decking rather, 3 Lancia, 3 Chaos Hunter, sometimes even Meows as well, and that's not the case anymore. And Chaos Hunter hasn't really seen play since I think the first time the Malice cards got hit, which is really important to note here. I just think it's not a strong card right now. Then we have Contact C. This to me goes into the some side deck tiers. It is actually a really strong card against Yummy specifically, and it actually affects the deck a lot. The problem is because Herald got limited now, they have a lot more space in their extra deck, so they can play just a generic card to get rid of the Contact C. For example, they can play something like IP Masquerena if they really want to, or what's most commonly now is going to be the copy of Cross Sheep, because it's a really good option to be able to make so you can make it if there's going to be 2 Earth monsters on the field. You can use different names. It also is a Beast monster, which is really important because if you go for Obedience School, you can then unlock yourself, which is really nice. It's a good option there. I think for a meta that is very focused around Yummy, you definitely will want to have access to this, but because Yummy is expected to be the best deck, people may be super aggressive siding for it, that people may decide it's not worth playing the strategy. So Contact C may fall down a little bit, but I do think it's still a really strong card, just goes in the some side decks tier. Next up, DD Crow. Again, this is a niche card here. I think there's a lot of value behind it. It's really good at hitting a lot of cards. You can use it against Lunalight really effectively. It's really good against Yummy as well, because when they target with the Minion, you can then banish it, which is really nice. depending on what they have in their graveyard. If they only have one copy of Snatchy in their graveyard, if you're playing against Yummy, you can banish the right card and you're off to the races. It's decent against decks that play the Canine package, because if they go for a Lupus effect in grave and they activate the effect, you can then chain the DD Crow to it to be able to banish it and get rid of it forever, which is really nice. There's a couple different scenarios which make DD Crow really strong, but it's never feeling like the hand trap to use. It always feels like it's a different option that could be better. Like, you wouldn't use DD Crow against a deck like Mitsurugi because Bestials are just better. So it really comes down to what the format's going to be, and for that reason, I think DD Crow for now is in the niche tier. Then we have Dimension Shifter. This here I'm going to put into the some side decks. I think it's some side decks. Yeah, it's some side decks. It really comes down to, can your deck play D-Shifter? I've seen decks like Vanquish Soul Canine play D-Shifter, then they play really effectively. And if your strategy can actually use Shifter, it's really good because it's actually quite strong against a deck like Yummy. It's also quite strong against a deck like Crystron. There's a couple different options for strategies that are really weak to Shifter, and if you can have this card in your strategy, you definitely want to be able to see it. But it is limited to one copy. I just hope it gets banned eventually. Next up, we enter into the Dominus series of cards. We have a Dominus Impulse here, definitely playable in most main decks. Well, I should say that. Playable in some main decks. What am I saying? Most decks are not going to be using exactly water or fire or dark and some combination of that. So if your deck can play Impulse, play it. It is without a doubt one of the most impactful cards of the format. It is so incredibly powerful, but not every deck can do it. Just like Dominus Purge. Right now, in my opinion, the only decks that are really actually playing Dominus Purge are pretty much Yummy. I think that's it. And while Yummy is one of the better decks, you don't always need to have Dominus Purge to play it. If you have it, definitely do. It's a great card and you definitely want to see it. But again, there's not really any wind-based strategies or earth-based strategies right now that are just taking names left and right. So if you see Dominus Purge, you can pretty safely assume that your opponent is going to be on Yummy. But again, they do belong in some main decks. Then we have Dominus Spiral. Oh man, I want this card to be so good. I really do. So for those of you who don't know, it's the newest hand trap coming out in Doom of Dimensions. Basically, it's just a compulsory evacuation device, but it can be activated from the hand if your opponent's activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard. So like the same triggers as Zuna and Lupus and so on. But the card itself, it's really only good if your opponent either has no monsters in their graveyard or you have a trap card in your graveyard as well. So it's really meant to be paired with other copies of like the Dominus cards or Infinite Impermanence and so on. And it also locks you out of Light and Dark monsters, which are the two most common types in the game. There are some decks that can use it very effectively. Mermail plays all waters. Fire King plays all fires. You can play with, I guess, Radiant Typhoon if you really want to, but it's not necessarily going to be the best option in that strategy. So where am I going to put it? It goes into the niche tier. There's just not enough decks that can effectively use this card well, especially because they can't conflict with something like Impulse or Purge, because in a perfect world, you'd want to play both of them. The Spiral plus the Impulse, the Spiral plus the Purge, and that's not really happening right now. Then we have Songs of the Dominators. Again, another really solid option here, but it's just the only deck that was really playing this card was Yummy, and it's kind of fallen away. It's not really been the best option available out there, and for that reason I think I'll also put it into the niche tier. But if you're a specific strategy that can take advantage of Purge, Spiral, and Songs of the Dominators, that's actually really good. You have 9 hand traps at that point that don't trigger Izuna or Lupus, or they're not activated by, they're not negated by Called By or whatever. It just really depends on your strategy, and I think that these two here just fall in the niche tier for the time being, even though they're both strong cards. Next up is Droll. I think this is going to be a card that's playable on most side decks. I don't think it's going to be a main deck worthy card for most people. I really do see it as a card that's going to be impactful against decks like Mitsurugi, of course, is going to be a really solid option. Lunalight, it's not bad against either. And a couple other strategies as well. I think depending on the deck, depending on your time, or your meta rather, I should say, you may actually have a good chance of drolling a deck, pairing that with another hand trap and being able to be really strong here. But I do think it's a solid option in the side deck right now, even though a deck like Mitsurugi Rizal is gone now. After that, we have Effect Veiler. I think this is a card that also goes into some main decks tier. It really depends on what hand traps you want to be playing. Do you really need to have another 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, essentially? But it's a good card. It really depends on the deck, though. It really depends on the space you have available. Do you want to play a mix of hand traps and board breakers? Or are you playing just hand traps? And I think the reason why people like Effect Veiler especially is because Dracotail, it loves Effect Veiler because it's not once per turn, so they can use the Veiler, they can then fuse away to summon out the Arthaline, and then use Arthaline to rebound the Veiler back to their hand, and then use it again after that, which is really good. It's also great in a strategy like Yummy because, number one, it's a level 1 monster, that's great. It has less than 1,000 attack, so you can turn it into a copy of Almirage if you really need to, and it's also going to be just a solid option as a hand trap that you can draw on your opponent's turn off of an effect like Cupsy. So those are some reasons why I think it belongs in the some main decks tier. Then we have Phantasme. This one here, I kind of want to put in niche, but I am going to actually put into the some side decks because it does a few things that are really cool. Pretty much every single deck that's going to be in the top tier will have some type of link summoning. You're going to see a deck like Mitsurugi's going to play their IP Masquerena or their Dynamundo, for example, and this is great because it stops targeting, which both those cards will do, whether it's Dynamundo or the SP. It's also good against Yummy because all of their interruption targets, which is great. So there's a few different options that are nice for this. It just has its matchups that are good and others that are not so good. I would just say it belongs in the some side decks tier, especially because right now we're seeing a bit of a format where a lot of the strategies that we're seeing are kind of xenophobic, at least a little bit. So for example, Yummy needs to clear this card from the field because it doesn't really do anything for them while it's on the field at least. It's good in Vanquish Soul Canine because it's a dark, but that's kind of pretty much it, I'd say. Then we have Ghost Bell. I think Ghost Bell is actually a really, really strong card, and I would actually put it into most main decks here. I think Bell is incredibly underrated this format. It's so good because not only does it stop all the Yummy monsters from tagging out, which is huge, it stops the effect of surprise to summon back as well, or to be able to get the field spell back to hand. It's great against the effects of the Lupus. It's also really good against the Arthaline effect as well, which granted they make chain block, but it's also good against the Dracotail trap cards. There's so much utility this card has, and of course I didn't even mention, but it's great against the Mitsurugi ritual spells, or ritual monsters too. It's just a phenomenal card. It's got so much flexibility in this format specifically. I do think it's a great option. You definitely should consider playing it in your main deck, unless you're playing a very heavy board breaker strategy. Then we have Ghost Mourner. This one is more niche. Okay, it's more niche for sure. Good card, not necessarily going to be a great option right now. So just keep that in mind. Then we have the reason why, by the way, is because you have to use it on summon, which is not always great. So just keep that in mind. Then we have Ghost Ogre. In the previous formats, when Vanquish Soul Canine was like a really good deck, I could see it being in like most main decks or some main decks, but right now it's more of a niche card as well. I was playing Yummy, and I actually am dropping this card from my list because I am replacing, instead of having 2 Bells and 2 Ogres, I'm going to play 3 Bells and add in a third hand trap of another card. Moving on, next card we're going to talk about is Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, and technically, you can play this card, okay? I've seen some decks actually run this because of how impactful it is against a lot of the different strategies right now. For example, you can use this card against Arthaline, that's really strong. You can use it against Snatchy, which means they have to use exactly Cupsy to get the field spell into the graveyard, and then be able to recycle back the Cupsies or the Snatchies that way. So that's an impactful option. It's also decent against decks playing the Canine package because you can use it on Ripper, which kind of shuts them off from bridging level 5s into the canines pretty easily, but I don't think it's that strong. That being said, it does see some play in some side decks. I actually do think it belongs either in this tier here or in the niche tier. And you know what? I think I'll just put it in the niche tier. I think it's going to go there. It's a good option. It's just not a great one. Let's put it that way. Dogwood. Just don't. There is no appeal to playing this card anymore. None. You do not have to play it. The card does nothing for you. Gaining life points is really not that necessary anymore. After that, no material. Again, don't play it. It does nothing for you. There's no advantage to playing this card. It prevents your opponent from doing something, but it doesn't stop them from actually getting value for their cards in other ways. So I don't think it makes any sense. Then we have Imperm. Right away, playable in most main decks. Almost every single deck is maining 3 copies of Imperm because it's so flexible. It's effect negation. It can be used on the opponent's turn. It doesn't trigger Izuna or Lupus. It's able to be used on your turn, of course, as a board breaker. So it's not a bad 6th card as well. There's just a lot of great things that you can do with Imperm. I definitely think it belongs in the most main decks tier. After that, We have the canines. We have Azuna and Lupus here. And I kind of want to look at these individually, but at the same time, not really, because you're not playing Lupus unless you have Azuna, and you're not playing Azuna as a hand trap unless you have Lupus. So where I want to put these is very straightforward. They both belong in the some main decks tier. You would not be siding these cards. They're not cards you would side in any situation. They're really going to be options for your deck going first or for going second. There's a lot of great situations because they can make rank 5s or make Typhon in situations as well if you just have Lupus. So Lupus on its own, if your opponent activates a card, just summon it from hand or graveyard, then you can Xyz summon and you can use it to make a Typhoon, which is great, or Typhon rather, which is great. And then Azuna is good because you can send a Lupus to then summon it back out and you can make a rank 5 monster. You can use Azuna and Lupus to make Ripper if you want to negate. You can use it to make Valon if you want a Book of Moon, and you can use it to make Jax, the new card, Canine Jax, to pop the opponent's monster, which is also a really good option. So there's 3 solid choices there for rank 5s right now, and I do think they both belong in the some main decks tier. Next up, Fualos goes straight into most main decks. I think if you're not playing Fualos at some point in your strategy, whether it's main or side deck, you're not being serious right now. This card is so strong, it's really important, and it just shuts off a lot of what people want to do. You definitely have to play it. Then we have Meowls. I do think Meowls is I'll put it in niche. I don't know if it belongs there, but I'll put it in niche for now. It's a fine card. It's not terrible in every situation. It's not great in any situation either. It's just a card you want to have access to against very specific matchups, and there's none of them that are really that good right now. After that, we have the third Molcharmy being Perulia, and I think this is a most side decks card. If you have this card, I think it's a decent side deck option. It's actually quite a good side deck option because there's going to be a lot of matchups where they can play around Fualos decently well. They give you 1 or 2 draws and make a half board, but if they have to deal with Fualos and Perulia or just Perulia, it makes that half board a lot weaker because they summon a lot more from the hand, which is something to notice as well. It's just a good option. You never really want to have it in your deck going first, of course, and I think for that reason, and because it's not as good as Fualos, you don't really want to main it, but it's really a strong side deck option right now. Then we have Nib. Nib is also a great card. I think it goes into the some main decks tier. It's a really strong option. It's a lot of strategies right now. It's just something that you can use to kind of blow up the board pretty easily before they can make something like a Ripper, before they can do something that's going to be as impactful as you might expect. So I think that Nib is actually a strong choice in this format as well. Then we have the side frames. We have Delta and Gamma here. I'm going to put them into the Just Don't tier as well. They're just really not that strong right now. It'd be nice to be able to use them, I think, as the fourth hand trap, if you want to call it, where you're going to have a Gamma, 2 Delta, and then a Driver. It's not terrible, but it's 4 copies of cards in your deck that are really not going to be that strong unless you're playing, for example, no copies of hand traps that summon themselves out. So that means no Phantasmes, it means no Nibs, it means no Azunas or Lupuses, for example. So just keep that in mind. It also conflicts with Imperm, which is something else to notice as well. I just don't think they're really worth playing right now. Then we have Impulse. Okay. Very much so is like sometimes you're playing it and the only deck you're playing it in is going to be like exactly Rescue Ace, or you're also playing it in Vanquish Soul Canine because you're using it as a way to get you extra fire monsters. It is a way to negate cards, which is nice, but it also is a way to get you extra draws because you have the, I think it's the Fire Attacker is the one that's like a little airplane looking thing. That one lets you like draw cards as well, so you can draw into additional hand traps. It's just, you really need a specific deck to make it work well, and even then it's tough, let's put it that way. And then we have Retaliating Sea, another strong options here. I do think this is a some side deck card. It's a really good choice into some decks in the format. It's quite strong against a deck like Yummy. It's quite strong against a deck like Draco Tail as well. It's actually really good against Draco Tail. The only thing you have to keep in mind is with this card here, because you have to summon by the effect of a spell card, or spell effect rather, no, it's spell card, excuse me, that's how the wording works. You can't use it in response to one of the Yummy field spells like Mignon, because when your opponent activates the spell card, the field spell, that will be the trigger to use it, but it's not including an effect to special summon a monster, so that's why you can't activate it there. But you can use it on something like Surprise, for example, when they summon, like Obedience Schooled. It's quite good against something like Rahu or Ketu Draco Tail as well, so that's something to keep in mind as well. We then have Ceravis. Just don't. There's no reason to play this card right now. Targeting protection is not that strong. Keep that in mind. Skullmeister is a niche card. I think it definitely belongs in that tier. We then have the copy of the Token Collector. Again, No, one thing about Skullmeister quickly is that it's actually quite good at negating the effects of the Draco Tail monsters that have been sent to graveyard as fusion material. So then you can stop them from setting the spell and trap cards, which is also really nice. So just keep that in mind. And then we have Vados. I want to put this card higher. I want to put it in some side decks, but in reality, just don't. There's no real reason to do it right now. Draco Tail doesn't have a field spell. Mitsurugi doesn't have a field spell. Canine Vanquish Soul, it does, yeah, but doesn't use it all the time. And then, of course, there's going to be Yummy, which does have a field spell, but there are better options to play against Yummy. So kind of, what's the point, really? But yeah, that's it. That's my tier list. So let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. I'm just doing a quick once over right now to see if I like it, if I'm happy with it. And honestly, I am pretty happy with it. I think there's going to be some disagreements here, of course. Obviously, cards like Ghost Ogre, I think, could be a bit higher. I think DD Crow could be a bit higher. But I think everything else that's in these bottom two tiers does make a good amount of sense. And then the top tiers is also fine. Like, Ghost Bell, for you guys, I know for a fact Ghost Bell is going to make some people flip out and say, why the hell is Ghost Bell here? But I believe in this card so much, this format. I do think it's such a strong option against so many decks. And if you haven't given it a try, definitely do so. It's going to be a great choice against so many strategies. So just keep that in mind. And then, of course, yes, this is a very good example of why the tier names are important. Dominus Impulse is a better hand trap than, in my opinion, Imperm, Bell, and even Ash Blossom. But it's in the some main decks tier because not every deck can actually play it because of the restrictions it has. So yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, leave a like on the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you guys want a tier list for the best board breakers, or the best budget decks, or the best meta decks, or the best rogue decks, whatever it is, whatever tier list you guys want to see, let me know down in the comments below, and I would love to read them. I interact with every single comment I get. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.